Hello, Scott here, and welcome to yet another completely unprofessional unboxing. And today's package is something pretty special. It is something that I've been trying to get over here to the States for some time. I did find it online for sale in the UK, and I purchased it for a really, really good price. Sent it to Pookie from Reviews at Relay, who was kind enough to bring it over with him when he came to Gen Con. Handed it over to me, but due to the delicate nature of the box, it is an older game. I handed it over to Keith from Rolling Boxcars and from Titterpigs, and who was likewise kind enough to package it up and send it to me safe and sound, rather than me take the chance of it being squished or damaged, in my luggage on the way home from Indiana. So, but before we begin, I'd like to clear the air on a couple things. So, for some time now, there's been a bit of a rumor that I am a complete Anglophile of sorts. It's been going on for some time now. I don't know where it started, and I don't really appreciate it continuing to be propagated. But to be perfectly honest, I got to say that it is completely unfounded, unjustified, and I simply wish it would go away. Okay, where were we? So, without further ado, let's open this box. Got my trusty Coleman camping staking knife here. And let's see here. This one's done a little bit tight. So it was done by Keith, so there's a good chance that this is packaged extremely well. But on our way through, there we go. Yes, of course. Layers and layers and layers of security. So we'll take that out, put that down. All right, and let's see here. Let's kind of give a little cut on the shrink. And once again, a big shout out to Keith. I really do appreciate you taking the extra time and effort to secure this package. So, all right. So, as stated in other videos, ones that pertain to superhero games, I've stated several times that I'm not a huge fan of superhero RPGs. Not necessarily because I think they're bad. I know there's quite a few of them out there, and I have, taken my time and looked at a few of them. Some on this channel, some outside this channel, but I've never really found one that I feel adequately captures, how I perceive things to be in comic books in regards to superheroes. I haven't tried them all, and I've been on the lookout for one that may finally convert me. And so there's one that's been eluding me for some time that, people swear by. And it is an older game, and I know it exists in a newer form, but I wanted to take a look at it, in its, at its foundation. And that is what you see before you. Golden Heroes, the role-playing game of superheroes, in case you didn't figure it out on the cover. But just kidding. So this is a game that was created in the UK some time ago. I'm not entirely sure, but let's take a look at the back of the box and see what we have here. If it has the date on the back, 1984, and this was a Games Workshop product. And as far as I understand, was widely popular for its time. That was designed by Simon Burley, who is still out and about on Twitter, and I'll be sure and tag you on this to see, if my initial impression of your game passes the mustard, and likewise Peter Haynes, with quite a few other people, who participated in the development of it all. And as far as I know, there's a bit of a licensing kerfuffle in regards to Golden Heroes and Games Workshop. It was published under Games Workshop. There was a bit of a falling out. Now, this is completely hearsay, maybe screwing up the whole story, but therefore, when Simon Burns wanted to continue with Golden Heroes, I believe the licensing was not going to be released. Therefore, he continued on with a derivative of the game under a different name called Squadron UK, I believe, which is, from what I understand, a wonderful game itself, and maybe something that I might check out in addition, to this in the near future. So superhero games. I'm a big comic book fan. I have been for quite a long time, and ever since I was very young, it was probably my first introduction to pulp culture themes and whatnot. And I collected a variety of them. I wasn't strictly superhero. I ran the gambit as to fantasy, superhero genres, westerns, pretty much anything. It just, at the time, it was kind of what was available and what was affordable, and things that just piqued my interest. I was a fan of pretty much, if I had to roll into a nutshell, the most I've ever read in regards to superhero games would be X-Men. So, books. But there's a certain aesthetic involved in superhero games, and in superhero comic books, and a certain quality that seems to just be existent in the stories themselves. That in my playing of not a lot, but a few of the superhero games that I have experienced in the past, it just doesn't capture it. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I know other people kind of feel this way, but it just doesn't necessarily have the same feeling as reading these stories in the comic books as opposed to trying to create them in RPGs. I could be completely daft. I could be just, slightly twisted or broken and just maybe unable to appreciate them for what they are. But, my search continues on. So what do we have inside? We have the Supervisors book, which I would imagine is the name for the game master within Golden Heroes. We have the Player's book, and we'll set that there. So we have two divisions, which is kind of nice. You don't have to share books between you and the players. And this particular game came with a couple extra adventures in here. It comes with Queen Victoria and the Holy Grail, scenario number 2, Legacy of Eagles, scenario number 1, and likewise the Supervisors Kit. Okay, I guess that's just a placeholder. So Supervisors Kit, and what is this? We have a little insert in here. Calling all Golden Heroes, find a quiet spot, strike wristbands firmly together, and then read the Supervisor's book first. Okay, so we have a bit of guidance from the author. So let's just take a quick look at the Supervisor's book and see what we have. Just going to set this over here. And this is in excellent shape, by the way. This particular game can go for anywhere from $60 US and higher, depending on the quality, what's involved. I've seen the books individually sold by themselves sometimes for $40, just like the Supervisor's book. And just in general interest and curiosity, I was able to pick this particular box set up for $24, and that's included everything in there. So, all right, what do we have? So, Golden Heroes. Let's see, is there a description on the back? Nope. But introduction. So let's just take a look here. Golden Heroes. All right, Golden Heroes is not the usual. Okay, Golden Heroes is a role-playing game set in the world of comic book superheroes, a world where some individuals have mighty powers, can leap buildings in a single bound, fly faster than a speeding bullet. I don't know what it is. It's dried out today. Excuse me. Probably that dried up cookie. Faster than a speeding bullet, pick up and throw oil rigs and run around in fancy costumes saving the world, the universe, or their favorite aunt from dire and deadly doom. It is a world of exciting escapades and esoteric adventures, a world you are about to join. What is a role-playing game? Even back in 1984, we had these descriptions of what role-playing games were. Of course, they were newer at the time, but it's something that seems to carry on because there's always going to be new people discovering it, and you never know what their first game is going to be. All right, so we'll skip over that. The rule book, the player's book, supervisor's book, what to read first, character generation, combat, superpowers, scenarios, campaigns, and other sections. The introduction, there are 2 kinds of dice provided with the game. Yeah, it didn't have it, unfortunately, but the familiar 6-sided dice and not so familiar 20-sided dice. The convention for referring to die in the rules is abbreviated to die to a D, followed by a number, yada, yada, yada. And then we also have D10s. When one is used as a D10, it's simply rolled, and the number which comes up is, okay, so describing these dice. Now remember, this is 84, so a lot of this is relatively new for not just people, but the world. All right. We have a description of the outline of play, and with some the beginning of some wonderful black and white art. I mean, this is this black and white is superhero art is fantastic. And God, I think I just got something in my teeth. If I need to pause this here, I may be back after I get something to drink. But we'll continue and try to carry on. All right, where to start? You're well on your way already. Just carry on reading as described previously under what to read first. As SS, you won't need to remember the rules, as you can refer to both player's book during play as required. Similarly, the players will be able to refer to the player's book during play to check out what they can and can't do with their powers. All right. So here we go. Here's the meat of it all, character creation or generation. What do we have here? So in Golden Heroes, there are 4 attributes. We have ego, we have strength, we have dexterity, and we have vigor. They're going to range from 3 to 18, and you determine these attributes when generating a superhero. How to determine the attributes for non-superpowered characters such as thugs, as detailed in other descriptions. So how do you obtain these? Ego, this represents a character's mental powers and is used in magic attacks and mental attacks. We have a description of strength, which should be self-explanatory, ranging from 3 to 60 and above. We have dexterity, ranging from 3 to 18. With modifiers, we have vigor, which vigor likewise is from 3 to 26 plus, and vigor measures how fit and healthy you are. We have damage. We have histocoma. So what is that? This represents the amount of shock damage, pain, that a character can take before passing out. Fair enough. Hits to kill. This represents the amount of physical damage, blood loss, and such that the character can take before dying. Any hit to kill damage that the character takes is deducted from their current total. As their total falls, the character will be hospitalized or even killed. We have movement. This measures how far a character can move in real time during 1 frame. The basic game time units. So game time units in here are frames. All right, generating superpowers. Let's see here. Okay, all superpowers are broken down into tables in which the players can generate their character totally at random. This is recommended as it virtually guarantees that each character will have a unique combination of powers. Yep. The number of power rolls that each player has for their character can be allocated by you or may be determined randomly by each player for their character. Random determination is recommended as this will result in some characters being slightly weaker than average and some being slightly stronger, producing a more realistic group with possible cause for friction between the player characters. Which, friction. All right. I'm going to pause for a moment and get some water because I feel like I've got a desert. I will be right back. Okay, and we're back. Thank you. So, where was I? We were determining power rolls. So, to determine a random number of power rolls for a character, the player rolls 2 6-sided dice. These halves, and halves the total, with halves rounded up and adds a 4. This will produce a random number from 5 to 10, with the average being 7 to 8. The ideal number of power rolls to allocate the ideal number of power rolls to allocate to each player is 7 to 8. However, when you are more experienced, you may vary the number allocated to suit the campaign and vision, be it fighting street crime or saving the world. The range should be from 5 to 12, depending on the level of power that you desire, the characters to have in your adventure. Fair enough. Okay. So depending on what it is that you're wanting to do within the campaign, you can create your characters as you see fit. Okay. Enhancing your superpowers. If you're running a campaign, the players may save some power rolls to convert to day utility phases, or dupes. Dupes are described in the campaign section, but briefly they represent the spare time a character has to train, practice, experiment, and otherwise improve their skills and powers. Each power roll used for this purpose is converted to 10 dupes. Fair enough. Okay, and superpower generation table. All right, so we have quite the list here, as you should. Superpower games should have a variety of powers. Obviously, plenty are going to be recreated from the comic books themselves. But we have quite the list here, starting with agility, cybernetics, growth, extra health, heightened senses, psi powers, shape change, teleport, tough skin, so on and so forth, on the way to weather control. And if you're not randomly generating them on a roll of 96 to 100, you can choose any superpower, upgrade one already rolled by 1 grade. Okay, so advantageous background table, brilliant scientist, chemical and mechanical, contacts, criminal and government, immortal, position of power, previous training, rich industrialist, rich inherited, and player's choice. Okay, so we're moving on to background and rationale. At this stage, the player's characters are just a concoction of superpowers and possibly advantageous backgrounds. But how did they get those powers, and how do their powers work? What is the history of your characters? And it goes on to explain how to do that. Moving on, the next step we have is equipment. And then we have the final details. Once the players have completed the background and rationale of their characters and you have evaluated them, you must fill in any missing details they have not already determined. But, let's see here, sorry. But these are not essential. You need only have the players complete those that you feel will be necessary to the scenario. If you're playing a campaign, however, it is best that all details are finalized. Excuse me. Oh, there we go. So, okay. And then continue on with costume design. Yes, the fun part of it. As much as I enjoy superpowers, the costume maketh the superhero. Secret identity, if you need one. And going on with style. Encourage the players to develop a personality for the character, which makes them a unique individual. And then finally, the golden heroes. Once the players have finalized their character, they should note the details on their character sheets. There will still be some empty boxes on the character sheet for things such as frames per round. These are covered in the combat section. The players can either complete them as they need them in play or check through the combat section now. The campaign ratings are only needed if you're playing a campaign. These are detailed in the campaign section. So far, I mean, one of the other things that I find is an issue with superhero RPGs is complexity. Complexity and the crunch of it all. So far, I mean, it seems to be fairly easy and simple compared to a lot of others that, character creation is something that would take up an entire book, several pages, and a lot of time. And it seems with relative ease, you are jumping in with a decent superhero character, and you're ready to get up and running. So, and then it goes on to explain what the action is. The internal struggle between good and evil is symbolized in the world of comics by what is commonly known as a slugfest. So we're going into combat. So this should be interesting. All combat is split into short time periods representing a few sections of action. The basic period is around 3 seconds in which both sides will be able to perform various activities. Each character in the combat has a certain number of frames, the movement per round in which to act. A round compromises all the frames of all the characters involved, each frame, as it were, representing a comic book picture panel. Okay, that's where I thought it was going. Yes, so a lot of the terminology here is depicted in comic book creation terminology. So yeah, so we have frames. So you're recreating panels of a comic book, so to speak, which I Couldn't tell you if this is a concept of its own, but it is a novel concept to say the least. Because like as stated, capturing the feel of a comic book in RPGs to me is something that's very hard to do. And this so far is kind of got me interested. So going on, we have actions. Some uses of superpowers and other significant activities are determined in the terms of actions. An action takes 2 consecutive frames of the character performing the action. The 2 frames must not be interrupted by the frames of other characters when the character has an odd frame because of initiative. All right. So we go on to describe initiative. Sequence of a round. A round can be thus seen in 3 parts. The side that won the initiative acts first in the frames won by the initiative die roll. The opposition then have all their frames for the round. The winners of the initiative then have any frames that they have remaining for the round. The sequence reflects to and fro flavor of combat in the comic books. Yeah. I see what you're doing here. Activity times. The combat time and frames that it takes for various activities is as follows. Half frame, speed, move only. 1 frame, movement, one-handed weapon, simple activity, and 1 action, 2 consecutive frames. Movement, 2-handed attack, and use your superpower. Okay, then it goes on to give descriptions of large combat, using the combat sheet, different types of combat, supervising combat, dealing with surprise, physical combat, defense class, weapon class, and so on. Pushing, lifting, and throwing. Destroying and tearing objects apart, grappling, grabs, charge in the combat, the coup de grace, or coup de coup de grace, depending on whatever. 4 years of French in high school, folks. Resolving physical combat, so we have the strike roll along with the strike table. First, you must cross-index the attacker's weapon class with the defender's defense class on the strike table. The number given on the table is total needed for the strike to succeed. Okay, so defense class is anywhere from 1 to 12, and weapon class of attack is anywhere from 0 to 5. Easy enough. I mean, to hit tables and things are par for the course for any role-playing game, especially in 1984. Then we have strike modifiers, resolving grabs, resolving grapples. Interesting. That's something that a lot of grapple rules tend to be confusing in games, and just telling you how to succeed in a grapple, a lot of them can do, but walking you through how to resolve them can be complicated. So there's something here regarding that. Grappling with a weapon. Okay, critical hits and misses. Whenever an unamended strike roll of 20 is made, that is a critical hit. Whenever an unamended strike roll of 1 is made, the character who made the roll suffers a miss. And then we have critical hit tables and critical miss tables, which is excellent. I am a giant fan of critical hit and fumble tables, so to speak, just because, I am a DCC fanatic. All right, magic attacks, mental attacks, resisting them, and combat responses. Things like dodge and parry and so on. Appropriate dodge tables and parry tables with it. Auto parry. Responses to grapple. Response to being lifted and thrown. Standing firm. Judo throw. Using superpowers. Common sense. Poppycock. I'm going to read this one. Various other combat responses will occur depending on the circumstances. It is up to you to determine how likely the character is to succeed. An obvious example occurs when a character is knocked off the top of a building by pushback from a super strong punch. As a combat response between being hit and falling, the character may try to catch hold of the edge of the building. You must evaluate the chance of success against a defense class chosen by you to reflect the difficulty of the response. So difficulty values. Use common sense. I don't know about that. Just kidding, but yeah. So determining damage. Of course, we have damage modifiers, things that could divide it. Pushbacks. The basic pushback, because this is mentioned a few times, so the basic pushback threshold for superpowered characters is 20 HTC. Some characters have a higher threshold due to a superpower growth and larger. Okay, so it's categorized because pushbacks are part of things that are going to occur in most superhero comics in regards to combat, grappling damage and effects, injuries, recovering hit points, staggered, stunned, and so on, hospitalized, technically dead, mostly dead, no, dead and gone forever, and aiding recovery. So, and then we go on to give examples of weapons, damage from falls, bindings. So this seems to cover, most everything that you would see, generally speaking, in regards to combat for comic books. Well, I mean, at least in, up to 1984. Then we're dealing with vehicles, and then, a very, 4 pages of combat example, which is good. Things such as this, that deals with several different factors and tables. It's good to have a good example of combat. This goes on through 7 rounds, not just, a paragraph, of Billy telling Tommy what he's going to do before Sally, does what she's going to do in a, 3 or 4 lines. Details. There was a post today regarding, had someone generally asked, in dealing with an adventure, do you appreciate a summary before getting into the meat of it all? I'm paraphrasing there. And for me, yes. Summaries, examples are things that can make or break a role-playing game for me and others because, even though I'm reading off of here fairly fast, I do read very slow. I'm dyslexic. A lot of these things that I've just read have already disappeared from my mind. And it takes quite a bit for me to, when I read, I will read in chunks and whatnot, as kind of how to train to read, and then I will go over it again and again if it's something that I'm actually trying to read to learn. And every little bit that I reread it, I'll pick up something more. And having something like a summary, like examples within role-playing games, it allows me to have a general idea to focus upon the key aspects of the game, whether it be combat or key points in adventure, because I can refer back to this small summary that I can easily read, whereas I may totally miss something in regards to the rules themselves, but having examples and summaries are extremely helpful. And a checklist, fantastic, even better. It's way ahead of its time for me. All right. And then other characters, so thugs, goons, and cronies, and so on and so forth. Looks like powers we're dealing with here. Very helpful combat sheet to help you track it. Scenarios, advice on creating a scenario, character development. Allocating DUPs, and financial resource level table. Of course, dealing with the rich playboy and, financial giant through technology. Detective points, interesting. So we have a full section dealing with, let's see here, dealing with the detective aspect. So we're, focusing on that. Not all superheroes, have superpowers. Some can be the peak of human ability and the greatest detective in the world. And then personal status, consciousness, expression, success rate, public response, security. Final personal status, and using campaign ratings, using detective points. A lot of helpful stuff to run the game that has been envisioned by the author within the book. Recreating your favorite comic book heroes and villains, which is always a plus. And then we've got examples here, quite a few. And then an introductory scenario called Crossfire. Let's see here. With the map, a couple maps. And another one in Alien Exchange. So 2, it seems. Unless it's all one adventure, but different issues. Yes. Same golden time, same golden channel. And the cast of the book with an index. Obviously not a Palladium fan. So that, generally speaking, is the Supervisor's Handbook. So a lot of stuff in there regarding that. And then we'll just kind of see if we can breeze through the player's handbook, because I'm sure it's going to touch on a lot of the same things that is within the supervisor's handbook, but but player side stuff, and then kind of walking you through that as you're going through it. There's examples of the rationale within the game. Let's see here, carrying on with a lot of things that were touched on within the supervisor's handbook, and just essentially giving, looks like primarily maybe a repetition of certain things, but just maybe a little bit more detailed on the player's side to give them, a little bit more focus on what they're going to be doing, because it's their character. And I gotta say, I do like the artwork. The black and white artwork is excellent in here. It's not overdone. It doesn't, it's not taking up excess space, nor is it too sparse. And going on with the description of different superpowers, martial arts, psi powers, and other things such as shrinking and tough skin. So yeah, I mean, a perfect little player side book. It doesn't have to completely, it doesn't have to be like, some player books are a bit of an insult because it literally is just almost word for word cut out of a book and put in here. It looks like it has a few extra things, but of course it's designed to hand your players so you can focus on this, and you're not having to, essentially have to share the book, and also, take a chance of them maybe, learning something they shouldn't. Because RPGs are about discovery. All right, so we'll take a couple look at these adventures, and I think we will call it here. But so far, I mean, it's one of the things that's piqued my interest about it is extremely accessible, even for a game created in 1984. Relatively, I wouldn't say rules light, but there's not that usual amount of crunch that is involved in other role-playing games that focus upon superpowers and superheroes. So that is a plus. I also do like the terminology used within to kind of give it a little bit more of a feel like you're creating a comic book. I know in this day and age, when in regards to superhero games, I think a lot of the focus would probably be more upon you recreating a Marvel movie. But to me, there's a distinct difference between heroes in a comic book and heroes in superhero movies too. So if I'm playing an RPG about superheroes, I want to create what's going on in the comic book, not in the movies. All right, so Queen Victoria and the Holy Grail. We have some inserts here. Let's see, I'll just read the description on the back if it's... okay, let's see here. A summons to the palace. Could it be recognition at last for the golden heroes? But things are not as they seem. Dark satanic forces are gathering to Fatam. Curse you. Well, I mean, I guess this gives me a general description. Okay. I mean, well, that could have been a little better, but we're not going to fault it for it. So we've got some maps in here. Let's see. Here we go. Her Majesty requests. It had to come. Your team has risen from obscurity to become one of the premier superhero teams in the country. For some time, you've been wondering if there would ever be any public recognition of your work. Beyond the routine praise or censure of the press, saving the world should be something, if not a Nobel Prize, then at least an OBE. Finally, the summons you have half expected is received. You are to call at Buckingham Palace at 9 sharp tomorrow morning and meet Sir James Peterson, one of Her Majesty's senior esquires, for a confidential discussion. All right. Yeah. Hello. Good evening. Cool. I mean, same thing. I mean, there's some decent or good black and white artwork in here that does not seem to overindulge itself within it, especially considering it is a superhero comic book. But at least it's enough to give you some additional immersion if you're running the game, or if you need to show the players something. So, all right. So there's that. Then we have here Legacy of Eagles. Does this have a better description on the back? It does. I hope. The role-playing game of superheroes. Dateline, 1965. A strange meteor plunging to Earth signals the end for a legendary team of superheroes. And still, the only known survivor of the team won't talk. 20 years on, their secrets are in danger of being unearthed by an archvillain. Can the Golden Heroes foil his plan? Will they inherit dun, 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 the legacy of Eagles? So is that an album with Glenn Frey on it, or? Yeah, stupid joke. So same thing. There's some standees, some character inserts. A couple nice looking. I'm not going to unfold them just yet. Colored maps in here, and runs about 24 pages. With the NPCs in the back, looks like stock full of wonderful NPCs. And then finally we have. What do we have here? We have the Supervisors Kit. So this is something that was additional for the game. Oh, okay. So it's the GM screen. That's what it is. Okay, so that makes sense. So what do we have here? We have the reference sheets. Fantastic. We have a nice stack of unused character sheets, and then likewise, I'd imagine a stack of combat sheets. Yepers. And what do we have here? And then we have the GM screen. How does it stand up after so many years? Fantastic. And of course, with all the particular information, I thought it was a supplement. So that's what I thought it was. So does it come with everything? This played augments Golden Heroes. It contains a full-color supervisor screen, 24 full-colored stand-up characters. Cardboard characters of villains and vandals in the Supervisor's book, plus 3 thugs. Well, it can't all be winners when it's used. 21 full-color file cards dealing with supervillains. Well, once again. And an A4 pad of 30 character sheets, 10 combat sheets, and 10 campaign record sheets. So, well, that's a shame. It came with it. When I got this essentially was just to get the game. It would be nice, but I can't bemoan them the fact that it is missing a few things here. So, yeah, shame, but it is what it is, and I assume that some of these things can be found online, one way or another. So there you go. So that is Golden Heroes. A UK. I don't think it's UK centric, but a UK created and produced game of superheroes by Simon Burley and Pete Haynes from Games Workshop in 1984. Yeah, in a nutshell and summary, it really interests me. It seems easy enough. It seems to kind of have that more pulpy flair that I like about a lot of the superhero comics from back in the day. It still seems to be retain a lot of qualities that would function perfectly well if this was created today. Some of the aesthetic, of course, would be changed a bit, but it's definitely piqued my interest, and it's something that I would definitely want to check out and give it a try to see if it might change my mind on. Can RPGs, really capture the thing that I feel makes a, superhero comic book? So, there you go. Scott, this has been yet another completely unprofessional unboxing with Golden Heroes, and just want to thank you for, for taking the time to sit through this video. If you'd like to check out Titterpigs, the tabletop RPG podcast with Keith from Rolling Boxcars, and I think that about wraps it up. So, have a wonderful day, take care, and we'll see you again real soon.